Your phone, your lifeline, your connection to the world. It wakes you up, guides you to work, entertains you, and keeps you in touch. But what if I told you that this indispensable device might be silently harming you? Sound dramatic? Stick around, because history has taught us one thing. When profits are at stake, industries don't always tell the whole truth. Let's start with a history lesson. Cigarettes were once marketed as healthy. Remember those ads with doctors holding packs of Camels, claiming they were good for your throat? Decades later, we learned the devastating truth. Then came margarine. It was sold as the healthy alternative to butter, until we found out it was loaded with trans fats, which are even worse for your heart. And Coca-Cola. Its original formula included cocaine. They quietly swapped that out for sugar, which under an MRI scan lights up the same parts of your brain as addictive drugs. Lead paint, asbestos, the list goes on. Each was considered safe, even revolutionary, until overwhelming evidence proved otherwise. And now the question we have to ask is, are cell phones following the same path? Let's be honest. How many hours a day do you spend on your phone? We've all been there, scrolling through social media at 2 a.m, wondering where the time went. Take a moment now and share your answer in the comments. I'll wait for a second. This isn't just curiosity, it's about opening everyone's eyes to how much we rely on these devices. John, you haven't written your response yet. Let's continue. For most of us, it's hard to imagine life without our phones. They're not just tools anymore. They've become extensions of ourselves. But here's the thing, we carry them everywhere, use them constantly, and yet, how much do we really understand about the potential risks? That's what we're here to talk about. The cohort study of mobile phone use and health, Cosmos, is a massive, ongoing investigation in Europe. Sounds impressive, right? But here's the twist. It's partly funded by phone companies. It's like asking the fox to guard the hen house, or telling your friends you didn't drink too much, and having your drinking buddy or the bartender back you up. Now, I'm not saying they're intentionally trying to mislead us, but let's just say I'll be taking their findings with a grain of salt. This study hasn't shown a clear link to cancer, yet. But here's the real question. Do we sit around waiting decades for definitive answers, or do we start taking precautions now? I know which one makes more sense to me. Here's something you probably didn't know. Most phone manufacturers recommend keeping their devices a few millimeters, about 1/5 of an inch, away from your body during use. Why? Because direct contact can exceed safety limits. And those limits? They're based on thermal effects, how much RF radiation heats tissue. But they don't address the potential non-thermal effects that could develop from long-term exposure. Here's another question for you. Do you keep your phone a few millimeters away when you're using it? Be honest. Comment below with 2 and your answer, yes or no. Let's see how many of us actually follow these guidelines. This raises a bigger issue. If phone companies were upfront about these risks, how would it impact sales? Industries have followed the same playbook for decades. Bury the critical details in fine print and hope no one reads them. Let me share a quick story. Recently I switched phone providers. They promised I'd only pay $39.99 per line with automatic payments. Great deal, right? Well, my first bill came and it was $179. Turns out there were hidden fees everywhere, activation fees, service fees, you name it. I called, they apologized and credited me $20. Problem solved? Not quite. The next month, I was charged $120. When I called again, they told me, oh, you need to set auto payment from your bank account, not your credit card. Funny how they didn't mention that up front. This is just one example of how companies bury critical details. If this happens with billing, what else are they not telling us? And how does that translate to health risks? I'll leave it there. If you're curious about what happened next, feel free to ask in the comments. Now imagine this. You've spent billions creating a product and you need to sell it. Do you lead with transparency or do you downplay the risks? Can you sell a cell phone if you say, here's this amazing device, but please hold it at arm's length at all times? Enjoy. Industries follow the same playbook. Bury critical details in the fine print and hope no one notices. We've seen it before. Cigarettes, lead paint, asbestos, and we're seeing it again with phones. The difference now? The risks might take decades to fully reveal themselves, and by then, it could be too late. So, what can we do? Here's the good news, you're not powerless. 1. Use speakerphones or wired headsets instead of holding your phone to your ear. 2. Avoid carrying phones in your pockets or bras. 3. Don't sleep with your phone next to your head. Keep it on a desk or nightstand. These small changes might not seem like much, but they can reduce your exposure significantly. What's the lesson here? Until industries are forced to admit harm, they'll delay it as long as possible. Once a product becomes ingrained in society like our phones, we can't imagine life without it. Lead paint, asbestos, cigarettes, and now maybe cell phones. Waiting for definitive proof often comes too late. Taking precautions today is not paranoia, it's common sense. Some may call it crazy, we call it curiosity. Every breakthrough starts with someone questioning the unquestionable. What if we're wrong? What if we're right? Stay curious, stay bold, and never stop questioning, because that's how progress begins. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to help others stay informed.